Hello and welcome back to another episode of Critical Reactions with your host Bryan. It is Monday. We're going to start a brand new theme this week. It's going to be post-metal. We're going to do a genre dive and check out 5 straight days of post-metal. Post-metal is kind of a wide genre umbrella, just like most post-genres, but it is one that, much like other post-genres, has sort of narrowed down into a specific sound, that being heavy atmosphere, long drawn-out sections, layering up over time, slow burns, that kind of thing. It also tends to be rather heavy and weighty. When it comes to post-metal, it's been kind of hit and miss with me. There's definitely been some exceptionally evocative music I've heard in this genre, but I also find that at times it can kind of wear me down. Let's see where Deafheaven takes us with some brand new material. This is a single titled Heathen that came out back in February. Comes off of their 2025 album, which is called something. Why isn't it anywhere around here? You'd think they promote it in their description. I think it's Broken People with Power or something along those lines. Lonely People with Power. I did have it somewhere on my screen. All right, let's dive into this. Heathen by Deafheaven. I'm loving that drum beat. The heavy reverb just embodies this entire song. Great moving bass line. The riff brings equal parts sorrow and joy. Interesting, the delayed attack there in order to begin the transition, the fade back into the lighter work. Nice switch from the more syncopated drum beat to something a bit more rigid. All right. I'm not going to get hung up on this, but I'm a genre novice, and even I'm pretty sure that this is not post metal. This is just straight up Blackgaze, right? Yeah, I don't want to spend too much time on it. I don't think it's worthwhile in relationship to the analysis of what the song is doing. But I don't think this is post metal. Y'all let me know. I just hear straight up, well, yeah, Blackgaze and maybe post rock ish stuff at the beginning. But yeah, interesting track to begin the week off with a Blackened adjacent genre. All right, now let's get into some actual analysis though. I really like the contrast on this track, moving from the lighter, they're both sides are atmospheric, but one's focused on a consistency of sound to create atmosphere, and another one uses space. When we look at the riffage in the quieter section, when we listen to the bass line, we listen to the more complex drum work, there is room for space. It's not just pure notes. You listen to the guitar and they'll play a couple notes and then take a second to, allow that last note to ring out and then play two more and then that one rings out. And it's the diversity of rhythm that creates these gaps. The bass also has this, a lot of longer drawn out notes with a couple of movements, like bursts of speed at the end of a bar. Maybe you play a note on 1, 2, 3, and then 4 and 1 and 2, 3, 4, and you kind of have like that burst in the middle. I'm not saying that's exactly what the bass is playing here, but there is that sort of feeling where the bassist will pretty much set up a speed of rhythm that the notes come out, and then have a burst of speed out of that for a few beats, and then come back into that established rhythm. The drummer is super syncopated in this section. It's phenomenal stuff. It's kind of bordering on the realm of melodic drumming. I think if we got outside of just focusing on 2 or 3 of the parts of the drum kit, I would probably call this melodic drumming because the rhythmic element is very cool. It's very expressive. It just tends to stick on bass, snare, and hi-hat for most of it. But yeah, dude, the rhythmic element is awesome. I love the interplay between all the different parts of the kit. Excellent stuff. We have clean vocals in here giving us this nice melody on top of everything. It sings its part, and then there's rest. Probably because, unlike the rest of the instruments, the vocalist needs to breathe. They don't have the option of continuously singing. But it is another way that we have an instrument using space, using silence in their part, in their composition. And it ends up feeling very spacious, especially when we consider the physicality of the instruments, which tend to feel here. They play a note, the note is here, and then that's it. There's sometimes a ringing out, but when the vocals come in, there's a ton of reverb. As soon as the vocals quit, you can still hear it continuing on. It covers up so much of the song too, and almost feels like it surrounds and encompasses the music. It's just the vocals, one instrument, but it feels like a wavy blanket slowly descending onto the song and slowly fitting around the different parts that are playing underneath it. I mentioned that emotionally, this section feels like a mix of something a bit more somber with something a bit more joyful. I think the guitar melody absolutely captures this duality in the riff itself. The notes that are chosen, the chord progression we go through, it's a mixed emotion. This is contrasted with the heavier section. This tends to use no space at all. 16th note picking on a lot of the instruments. The drums end up becoming a bit more rigid, focusing on quarter notes and occasionally eighth notes, but a consistency of that, just, quarters for a long time or eighth notes for a long time. And we do have diversity between those two rhythms, but that diversity comes in phrases where we might have 4 bars of the quarter note and then 4 bars of the eighth notes. And it's not where it's mixing them up to create something a bit more syncopated. You're sticking with that rigidity for a while. The vocals shift away from their reverb-drenched cleans into a nasally, high-pitched black metal scream. It trades out the reverb for compression and becomes very white noisy. The vocals take up just as much space as the instruments do here. The instruments decide to stop using space, and while the vocals still need to breathe, the vocals themselves are taking up so much room. A single tone has so much compression and white noise on it that it fills so much more space up. Unlike the reverb, which tends to ripple out, this just fills the space in a specific point. This is the contrast of the song, and I think it works rather well. There is a third section to the track, though. We enter it in the final minute or so of the song. It just goes for pure black metal. We get blast beats. We get 16th note picking. I think we actually had a little bit of tremolo in there for one of the sections of this. And for those who don't know, tremolo picking is just picking the guitar as fast as you can, regardless of whether that rhythmically lines up with the time signature or not. It becomes overwhelming. It becomes a wall of sounds. This does share some DNA with post-metal, which tends to go for wall of sound production as well. But I feel compositionally, this is just not that. This is definitely black metal here. Now, what does set it aside, though, from traditional black metal is the production on all of it. This is why I call it Blackgaze rather than black metal. It has a lot of here's the thing too, right? Black metal uses a lot of compression as well, especially when you look at lo-fi black metal, mid-fi black metal. It's really about compressing everything down and kind of shaving off all of the interesting coloring of the sound to basically have your waveform just be a block, a solid rectangle. And we kind of get that here, but I don't know. It's one of those things that I don't know that I can explain, but you feel it in your gut, right? You're like, yeah, dude, this is Blackgaze, not black metal, even though it's both 16th note picking, blast beats, high compression. Maybe it's the composition itself. This one tends to be a bit higher pitched. The notes come out a little stronger. I feel that, especially compared to low and mid-fi black metal, I can hear the melodic qualities here a bit stronger. But it's also kind of more positive. Black metal tends to feel aggressively dark. I picture, when I listen to black metal, I tend to think of snow, static on a TV. It's a very black and white thing. Very heavy and gloomy. But when I hear stuff like this, it tends to be a bit more colorful. I don't know if this is a production thing that I don't have the words to describe, but it does line up that we tend to explore higher pitched harmonies and melodies. And I think the guitar tone is just a little bit brighter as well. Maybe less bassiness, more treble. I don't know. But it ends up feeling like shoegaze, which is where it gets its name from. This is a mashing of black metal and shoegaze, but there's a lot of overlap between them. So if anyone else has a way to put this into words, I would love to have some help articulating this. But I do feel a positivity while listening to this that I don't with black metal, and that's the gut feeling that I have that helps me differentiate between the two genres typically. And I could be very wrong here too, so let me know if I'm wrong as well, and this way I don't make a fool of myself in the future. But even when we get to the heavier sections, I find them to still be a bit uplifting, harmonically, melodically, and maybe even sonically. It's the composition, sure, but I think it's also the tone of the guitars. Something about it just feels brighter, even though we are working with this, highly compressed, everything pushed into the center, wall of sound, everything working as a singular whole. It should feel weighty because of all of the 16th notes from the drums and the bass and the guitar, the screaming from the vocalist. It should feel overbearing, but it doesn't. It feels like being picked up by a massive wind, and yeah, that's kind of scary too. A wind would have to be pretty strong to pick us up, but for whatever reason, it's comforting. And that's kind of what I get at the end of this track. The bits of mixed sorrow and joy throughout the song has just kind of removed any of that sorrowful weight and has launched me into the air for celebration reasons. Maybe I'm not caring about falling down later. Maybe I'm trusting the wind. But right now, everything feels good and I feel weightless, and that is a phenomenal feeling to have. And that's kind of where this song takes me. And I wish I could explain why. I'm pretty good at that in most cases. Right here, I don't know. But I will say that Deafheaven almost had me. I really love the softer sections. I think they do a great job of this reverb drenched, beautiful, twinkling, melodic stuff in the verses. There's nice phrasing in here where we have rising and falling action with some of the instruments, the vocal delivery. The heavier section was nice contrast. It existed for a shorter amount of time. We got back to the cleaner stuff that I enjoyed. And then the Blackened part really kicks in the last minute or so. It threw me off the ride, man. I wasn't having a good time anymore. I think it's a great emotion, atmospherically and artistically phenomenal. I'm just not a big fan of having so much sound thrown into my mind and being assaulted by all of these blast beats and 16th notes and screechy vocals. I can find these feelings of joy and uplifting in sounds that are more palatable to my ears, and that's typically where I will go. But I suppose if you need this aggressive type of sound, but you want something a bit more positive, Deafheaven has your back. I think they fill a very specific and niche role in the world of music, and I'm glad that they exist. Let me hit some lyrics on this and we'll see what's going on there. So this song is about a person who, for one reason or another, closes himself off to connection in general. The very first line of the song, his heart is closing right when he is trusted. So as soon as there's any bit of intimacy, any sort of connection between two people, he shuts that down. It says, feeling he owes his sense of self to lusting, days without roses. I'm not too sure about the roses part. I mean, in the sense of intimacy, roses tend to be a gift to someone. Maybe it's just a representation of intimacy in general. It says that he owes his sense of self to lusting. So he has, I don't know, he finds who he is in sexual encounters, one-offs, and then he goes days without any sort of connection with anyone. The chorus states, I wonder what is numbness and what's a coma, into the lights, closing his eyes in the lane again. So it's basically saying, what's the difference between being numb to life and every joy that it has to give you and being in a coma? relating somebody who closes themselves off to everyone else is might as well not even be awake at all. Which I think is an interesting line, because then it says that he closes his eyes in the lane again. This immediately brought me to mind of somebody, driving down the road and then just closing their eyes, letting the road take them wherever it will, instead of having control over their destination, over the trip. And this may be relating to intimacy and connection with people. Instead of trying to find people and make those connections, he's just closing his eyes and avoiding everything, just allowing his life to go on autopilot. It says he quit looking for the pairs in paintings, intimacy and its meanings, leaving fondness for weakness, strangers, and desire. So he stopped looking for any sort of depth, I think, is what that's saying. It says, intimacy and its meaning, not just the surface level idea of intimacy, but what does it mean below that? It says he pushed all that away and went for simply strangers and desires. So once again, one-off sexual encounters. We have the outro though. It says, someone adored lifts him today. All who stay will know a true love. And I wonder if this is bringing it back to the beginning. Someone got close to him and he closed his heart off. And it says, if you just stay with this, you'll know true love. But I wonder if this person doesn't. And this is both a bittersweet moment. Well, it's both a bitter and a sweet moment, where this person is feeling connection and love from someone else. And the narrator says, all you need to do is stay within this and you will know true love. But the narrator, well, not the narrator, the character of interest can't and won't, as shown by the first line. Maybe this is the person who got close to them. As it says, they adored them and lifted them up. But this person only knows how to shut down that connection. It could be a point of growth and evolution for this character, but unfortunately it probably won't be, based off of their past actions and cycles. Yeah, this is not positive at all. I mean, geez. I think the only point that would have any synergy is the outro, that someone lifted in today, and if they stay, they will know true love. I mentioned that the outro of the song felt like being lifted. It felt very positive. It felt joyous compared to the rest of the track. The sorrowful elements had been removed. I have a negative read on this outro, though. Maybe the music is implying that this is a point of change for this character. That would be the only way that I can see the synergy happening. That would remove the sorrow. It's the end of this person blocking their connection with other humans. I'm going to go with that because the music supports it. And I want this to end in a positive light. There's so much sorrow and pain in this person. I want them to find happiness. So then, yeah, a heavy song with sorrow as one of the main components throughout, that eventually turns into something brighter lyrically and atmospherically. I'm going to go with that. I think it works really well. But, as usual, these are just my thoughts on Deafheaven's Heathen. What are yours? Do you agree with me on any of this? Do you have your own interpretation? Do you want to, did I say anything wrong? You want to correct me on that? Put all of those thoughts and anything else you have down into the comments section. Above that, in the description box, you'll find a link to Linktree. Takes you here. You can find links to my music, ways to support the channel, a link to the Discord server, and so much more. Above that, if you could, like, subscribe, and ring the bell. I greatly appreciate all three of those. That wraps it up for today. I'll be back tomorrow, though, 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 9 p.m. UTC. As usual, we're going to continue on this exploration of post-metal. Until next time, remember to be critical, not cynical, of the music you listen to, and have a fantastic morning, afternoon, or evening, whenever you choose to watch my videos.